Hello, friends, and welcome back to Scaling Stories. Today, I've got some more highly upvoted posts from Best of Redditor updates for y'all. Like always, I'll be reading you the posts and giving you my opinions, and I'll also be working on building up my Minecraft world at the same time, so I hope you enjoy. Also, I'm currently only in Spotify's creator program, so watching on there would help me out a ton. Thank you so much for your support. Today's first story comes from the Relationship Advice subreddit. It was posted by Top Manufacturer 620 on July 14th, 2024, and was titled, My 30 female spouse, 35 male, has been acting incredibly strange. Do I need to help him or do I need to escape? Sorry about the formatting. I'm on mobile, and I'm really shaken up as I write this. My spouse has been experiencing behavior that has only become increasingly concerning. In the past 2 months now, he has been talking about things that he claims are happening, but that he's never mentioned before. As some background info, when his behavior first started getting concerning, I managed to convince him to go to the hospital to get checked out for his mental health. He wasn't even seen by a doctor, and he was told he just needed to take a certain medication to help him sleep. The issue is that he also smokes weed, so this medicine does not mix well with that. He won't quit smoking. We also have 2 very young kids. Back to the weird recent behavior. He claims he had an old email with an inheritance that got hacked, and he needs access to it. I tried helping him get on it, but he hasn't used it in literally the 12 years we've been together. I only knew of its existence previously when I helped him switch his Facebook login, and that was an email attached. Another example is that he believes everyone is talking about him to me and everyone else. I mean literally everyone else. He thinks there's some sort of big thing planned to hurt him or do something horrible to him soon and that we're all in on it. On a few other separate occasions, he's asked about a show that we're on and asked how much money I'm being paid to keep a secret. He also thinks I'm having secret phone calls and that I've apparently left the room to accept these calls, which then results in me coming back crying about something I've apparently discussed on the phone. Whenever I try to explain to him that none of this is happening, he fights back, saying that I'm just lying to him and to tell him the truth. That I need to tell him the truth or something bad is going to happen. It's gotten so bad that he ended up getting fired from his job because he was barely showing up. He kept going to the cop station to make a report instead of going to work. After he got fired, there was some sort of tense situation where they ended up calling for a wellness check on him because they were afraid he was going to come back and hurt someone. The cop showed up while I was also home, and he said he wouldn't hurt someone, he only acts in defense. In recent weeks, he's gone from screaming at me, demanding answers, to just not talking to me at all. At this point, I'd rather he just not interact with me. The reason I'm writing this is because of what happened today. It was a nice day out, and I asked if he would come with me for a walk with our kids, to which he agreed. He barely spoke a word to me or the kids on this walk, and when we came across a playground, I asked if we should take the kids there for a few minutes of play. He then got upset at me for suggesting it and said I always control everything and I'm the queen of the decisions. I didn't even tell him we were doing that. I just asked. When I mentioned this, he just said, do whatever you want, like always. So I figured, why not? So I played with the kids at the playground and he did his own thing. Someone left a couple of various balls there and he was throwing them around. He then picked up the football and threw it in my direction. It flew past me, a couple of feet from me. I asked why he did that, and he said, why are you upset? It didn't hit you. To which I responded, well, what if it did? He then said, if I wanted it to hit you in the head, I would have thrown it that way. Then he started on a rant about how he's going through the same thing with everyone lying to him. After that, he sat down in the corner of the park and was literally doing nothing. I was getting upset, so I packed up the kids and started walking to leave the park. I said to him, we're going home, and started walking away. Apparently, he tried to yell out to us, but ended up taking a different way home than we did. He told me this when he met me on the street when we were almost home, saying that, next time I want to be an idiot and walk away, maybe stop and listen for him calling out. I didn't hear him, but honestly, he could have easily caught up to us. I was getting more and more upset and said I wanted to go for a drive to get coffee, and he said, fine. I said I wanted to take the kids, and he asked why. Then I said, fine, you stay home with them, and he said no, they could go with me, and started putting them in the car. I got in the car, and he got in the passenger seat, at which point I asked him if he was coming with me. He said yes and told me to drive. I told him I didn't want him coming with me because he was being mean, and he said he could be a lot meaner. As I started driving away, he kept going off on the usual BS he's been talking about lately, and I told him I didn't want to hear it. He started screaming at me to keep driving and shut the F up. I stopped the car and told him to get out, and he made a motion like he was going to punch me, but punched his hand in front of my face. At this point, I started crying and yelling at him to get out, and he yelled back, "No, just drive." I then said I should just drive him to the police station for that, and he said he would choke me unconscious before we even got there. I was crying even more at this point and said I didn't want to be with him anymore and wanted him out. He said no. He continued to be a dick for the rest of the car ride, during which I pleaded with him not to treat me this way, especially in front of our children. It's not fair to them or to me. He said not to bring them into this. I said, how couldn't I? They are literally in the car. Anyway, after I drove us home, he asked how long I'd been waiting to break up with him and who I was replacing him with. I told him I hadn't been, and there was no one else, which, of course, he doesn't believe. When he got inside, he even taunted me, saying, "I should take you to the cop station," in a girly voice. He's outside smoking, and I'm inside with the kids, writing this. Of course, I'm shaken up currently, but I don't know what to do. We only have the one vehicle, which is in both our names. The place we rent is actually my mom's, so we don't have a lease, but we both have our addresses attached to this place on our licenses. He wasn't always like this. Literally, only in the past couple of months has his behavior been this bad. I miss the person he used to be. I miss that he would spend time with me, with the kids, but he spends all his time by himself now. I don't know if he's going through some sort of manic episode or what's triggering this change in behavior, but I really don't know what to do. Is there something different I can do to help him? Every time he talks to me about whatever situation, he doesn't accept any answer I give and also won't accept it if I say nothing. Now here are some of the top/relevant comments from the original post. Commenter 1 says, heavy cannabis use can trigger the onset of schizophrenia in people who are already susceptible. Your husband is right about the age when this tends to happen in men. I am not a doctor, but I really think this is a mental health emergency, either due to a drug interaction, drug use itself, or because he is rapidly developing a psychotic disorder. You need to see a mental health professional, not the ER, and describe all of this behavior to them, including the frequency of his marijuana use. OP says, that's the thing. He saw a crisis nurse at the hospital and a therapist/social worker there, and I felt like the only thing they tried to do was get him to take a specific medication. I think it's called quetiapine or something. But anyway, I don't think he is regularly taking it, and if he is, he definitely shouldn't be mixing it with smoking weed. Commenter 1 says, that's the generic for Seroquel, which is actually an antipsychotic medication used for schizophrenia and bipolar 1 episodes. That makes way more sense to be prescribed than a sleeping pill. You're right though, he needs to be taking it as RX. The bottle should have the dosing on it. I looked up the drug interactions, and the ones listed are moderate and mostly physical, although, generally, people with any kind of psychotic disorder, I think, are not supposed to use marijuana. OP later adds an edit to her post. I just wanted to update and let you all know we are safe. I'm sorry for not saying anything sooner. I'm a bit overwhelmed with how popular this post got and will give an actual update later. Thank you for the advice and comments as well. I will mention a couple of things. We are not in the US. Where we are, marijuana is legal, so my spouse does get it from government-run dispensaries. I don't think there's a chance his stuff gets laced, aside from the fact that he mixes cigarettes with it. A lot of people mentioned meth. There is just no way. He doesn't go anywhere random, and he doesn't talk to people outside of our household, aside from the few times he would go to the police station. I have his location on his phone, so I can see where he goes when he leaves. Update 6 days later. Hello. First of all, thank you all for the comments, messages, etc. on my previous post. Obviously, it got a bit too much to keep up with responding, but I just want to say I really appreciate the help. A TLDR is at the bottom. To give an update, I left the house the night I made the post, but went back home the following day. I wanted to be able to collect some sort of evidence I could use because my spouse has been really good at downplaying his symptoms to any authority figure. I want to mention that I had been present at most doctor and hospital visits prior, so I know what they did recommend for him. I felt at the time that they did not give him enough help for the crisis he was obviously going through. Anyway, continuing on. For the couple of days after the Sunday post, he did not really engage in much conversation with me or our children. Every time he entered the room, I set my phone to record. I did not get anything until Thursday, when he finally started talking to me again. He was questioning whom I had been talking to about him and who had been trying to sabotage his life. Obviously, I denied everything because there is no one talking to me about him, aside from this Reddit post, which he didn't know about. This started to anger him, which included him yelling at me and saying that if anyone was talking to me about him, I should bring him to the house so he could take care of them himself. I tried not to engage anymore. This made him more upset, as he was continuing to demand answers from me. He would then say, "Oh, I want to hit you," or "Don't make me slap you," when I was either not answering or just saying I didn't know what he was talking about. I got this on recording. After he ended up walking away and leaving the room, I took the kids to bed, locked us in our room, and tried to sleep. The following morning, he insisted on driving me to work. I told him I wanted the car, to which he disagreed and said he needed it. After dropping our kids off, he started going off on me about how I'm stupid, dumb, a BTCH, etc. for keeping his inheritance. Again, something he is clearly having delusions about, from him. I tried to disengage completely, keeping myself to the far side of the passenger seat, which caused him to grab me by the back of my neck and pull me closer to him, where he told me to listen to him. I obviously reacted to this and was super upset, telling him to please focus on driving and not touch me again. After he drove me to work, the last thing I said to him, as he was still going off on me with the car window open, was, "You desperately need help." Once I got in, I called my boss and let her know what happened. She came in, canceled her appointments for the day, and took me to the police station. We made a report, although the sergeant we initially spoke to seemed to be against us making a report. He kept saying he would be homeless if I reported him, like he was the victim in this scenario. I told him my safety and the kids' safety should be more important, and he brought in a different officer to take the statement with me. Once I completed that statement, they told me to stay away from the house, as they were going to arrest him, and that they would call once he was out of the house. About 5 hours later, he was arrested. Apparently, he was very compliant, and with all the information I provided, they actually took him to the hospital, and he is currently on a 30-day psychiatric hold. He will be going to court at some point for uttering threats and assault, but seeing as he doesn't have a criminal record, I'm sure it will just end up being a slap on the wrist. So, as of now, I am home, safe with the children, and we are getting our locks changed. I will also most likely get a protection order, but in an ideal world, he gets better, and that's not necessary. I guess we will see in the future. I want to again thank everyone for their comments and assistance. A lot of you made some excellent points, and although I know some of my decisions probably seemed like dumb ones, I was trying to figure out the best solution logistically for us. Any other future updates will be on my profile. Now here are some of the top/relevant comments from the update post. Commenter 1 says, "I'm very proud of you for taking the first step towards a new, healthy life for your kids and yourself. To continue on this path, you need to quit hoping for the best and start preparing for the worst. It's a long road, but you've shown the intelligence and fortitude to successfully see this through." That being said, I'm going to have to stress to you that he's not going to get better in 30 days. Get that restraining order ASAP. One reason is that he will be served while in custody instead of you having to track him down to serve him. The second reason is that they look at how quickly you do these things when he goes to court for the charge. It shows that you are actually going to follow through and the seriousness of your situation. The third reason is that he is more likely to be charged with DV and the threats. The fourth reason is that it will usually make custody and separation move faster. This is one of those situations where you crap in one hand and hope he miraculously becomes mentally healthy in 30 days in the other, which fills up quicker. Good luck, and don't stray from your path to safety and happiness. OP says, "Thank you. It's definitely wishful thinking that he will get the treatment needed to go back to normal. I don't want to think of this as the end of our relationship, but at the same time, I don't know if he would want to be back with me since I got him detained. Right now, the only things I'm thinking about are the kids." Commenter 2 says, "Make sure, as soon as the protection order is in place, to let the school know that he isn't allowed to take the kids out. Find a therapy place for you and the kids, and have them help you explain to them that it's not safe to talk to dad at the moment. That way, he won't try to get his revenge through them. And good for you. And you're right, Him ending up homeless is not your concern. OP says, they are toddlers, so a bit too young to understand. Their daycare is aware as well. Second update, 4 months later. I don't know if anyone will even see this. It's been a while since I updated. I still get messages asking how I am and asking me to update again. I apologize for the delay. My spouse is doing a lot better. He received the treatment he needed in the psych ward of the hospital, gets a shot every so often instead of taking pills, and only smokes cigarettes now. He's back to his normal self, engages in conversation with me and our children like he did before this crazy crap happened, has a job, and, honestly, is being a better partner overall. It took a lot of time for me to feel like I could trust him again, but we've taken a lot of time to work on things and get back to how we should be. I know a lot of people wanted me to leave and never look back, but you have to realize how he acted in my initial post was nothing like how he is as a person. Obviously, he had some sort of weird psychosis happening, which could have been a result of a high intake of marijuana, plus a couple of added stressors. I don't want to go into too many details because it will give away where we are, but, basically, something traumatic happened under 10 years ago that happened again a month before he started acting strange. It was one of those types of events that forces you out of your home for an undetermined amount of time. Anyway, that's all the detail I want to go into. Obviously, he was affected by it more than I thought because when this event happened, I was the one having a difficult time, and he was my rock. But after we were able to go back home and have some normalcy, that's when things started changing for him. It started with him randomly needing to gain access to an old email, to thinking he was being recorded all the time, like he was on the Truman Show or something, to thinking that everyone, including me, was out to get him. This is when the threats of violence started happening. I was obviously in disbelief because in the entire time we've been together, nothing like this has ever happened. I never once felt like I was unsafe. I never felt scared. Until the threats continued to come, and he started to escalate. After he made excellent progress in the hospital and I had many reassuring conversations with the psychiatrist, I allowed him to come home when he was discharged. It was so hard not having him around. I cried all the time. Our kids really missed their dad, and he really missed us. He needed to get help, and I'm so thankful I was able to find an effective solution. This will most likely be my last update. I don't really think I'll need to add any other details, but, again, I just want to thank everyone for their messages and comments, even the ones who called me an idiot, lol. Third update, 10 months later. Hello all, it's been almost a year since my last update. To keep things short, crap hit the fan this year. He didn't take the medications he was supposed to, reverted to another major psychosis episode, which resulted in him attempting to strangle me after I disputed his delusions. He was removed from the home, and there's a protective order against him for me and the kids. This happened earlier this year. My kids and I are safe and haven't heard from him since. Don't be like me. Don't trust that someone will get better or attempt to work on their horrible mental health when they haven't proven to be reliable in other parts of their life. Don't try to fix someone who can't be fixed, or rather, just don't try to fix people. Thanks to everyone for their comments, whether they were good or bad. Shout out to the best of Redditor updates community that will eat me alive after reading my update. Fourth update, 7 months later. Hello all. Not sure if anyone would even care or be following my story at all at this point. Maybe it's just nice to talk into the void of the internet. Anywho, it's been almost a year since my ex assaulted me, and almost 4 months since he's had any sighting or online presence. He was supposed to appear in court earlier this month for the assault and other related breaches, but did not show up. The officers speculated that he skipped town. However, I truly don't know how he would manage to do that. As far as I know, he didn't have a job or a home, and anyone who he is friends with would be a vulnerable, unhoused individual like himself. All of this is to say, I don't even know if he's alive anymore. After my protective order expired, he reached out, essentially asking to hook up, which I did not entertain. The last time I heard from him was on our oldest child's birthday, not to ask to see them or wish them a happy birthday, but to call me a manipulative CNT. From there, it's been radio silence. To this day, I still do not understand what happened, but with therapy, I'm realizing that the majority of his behaviors were not okay or normal. He was incredibly paranoid of other people, very controlling and insecure about me and my activities, and was completely comfortable with threatening violence to anyone and anything for the smallest inconveniences. Did he act on the majority of those threats? No. But for the most part, I also wondered if he was just trying to scare me. Our oldest child still gets sad whenever they bring him up, and the youngest will ask about his whereabouts, but aside from that, seems fine with his absence. They both are doing great without him. The next step is to file for full custody. However, I don't know what I'll be able to accomplish without being able to serve him. Is this something I can apply for on the basis that I've been the primary and only caregiver for almost a year? I don't want him to affect any decision-making process for them. On the positive personal side, I've begun seeing someone new. It's very different from what I'm used to with my ex. When you don't have to spend all your time managing someone else's emotions, you can feel lost. They are fantastic with me, and my children really enjoy their presence. Rereading the original post has been a weird experience. I was a completely different person back then, and I had no idea I could ever get him out of my life. Maybe another update will happen if he's ever found. Maybe this is the last update. I hope you, the reader, have a fantastic day, and I thank you for reading my ramblings. ScalingStories Corner. Wow, so this post was a blast from the past. I think the last time I covered it was when it only had 1 or 2 updates. I'm not super sure. Maybe it was at the second update, but I was really surprised at the later updates OP posted. I've heard of weed causing psychotic episodes before in people that are susceptible to them. I don't remember specifically, but I've read about people having like crazy like manic episodes after taking too much. I'm not sure if that was the exact reason why OP's husband started going crazy, because she said something traumatic happened to them in the area in the past, but didn't really go into details to not expose themselves. But the weed was probably not helping. And it's sad to see that he stopped taking his medication and he went crazy again on OP, because she definitely tried her hardest to make it work despite all the fear and danger he put her and the rest of the family through. So at the end, I'm really glad that things are getting better for them now. Okay, friends, so that concludes our first story of the day. Next up, we have a story from the Am I Wrong subreddit. It was posted by Essence of Llama 81 on May 24th, 2026, and was titled, I warned my niece about letting a guy fly her out, and some of my family members think I should keep my mouth shut. My niece, who is 24, shared at a recent family gathering that she's been dating a guy long distance for a few months and that he plans to fly her out to spend some time together. After she explained the situation, there were a ton of red flags, and I warned her not to go. Now, my sister, her mother, is telling me to mind my business and said I am ruining a potentially wonderful relationship. Here's why I'm concerned. They met online and have never met in person. They FaceTime and text, but he's always in his car or out, never at his home. He's 32. He wants to fly her out, from New England to Portland, Oregon, and plans to stay in a hotel for the trip because he has roommates. He said he can't fly out to meet her here because he's got a lot of commitments. To me, this sounds like a guy who's either married or at least has something weird going on. It seems like a really bad idea for her to go out there. On the other hand, I'm 99.9% against a girl letting a guy she met online fly her anywhere. If a guy can't find somebody in his city/area to date, there's a good reason for it. There might be some very rare case where you bond over a unique hobby or interest, but just generally dating somebody long distance from day one is a concern to me. My sister chatted with him a couple of times and said he seems nice, but it's easy to seem nice from the other side of the country where you can hide any flaws. Am I wrong to think this older guy flying her out to a hotel is suspicious? Or am I just an old fart who needs to adapt to the times? ScalingStories Corner. Nah. I too would be sus in this situation. I am not against long distance connections or meetups. And in fact, when I was in middle school and high school, I had a really good bunch of online friends. And we played pretty much every video game together. Like tons of Counter-Strike and Garry's Mod and League of Legends and like a whole bunch of other games. But yeah, so 2 of them lived in Canada at the time. And like in my first year of college, I was going to go visit them for like a week. And I was going to stay at one of their houses and then we'd all meet up from there, right? And I remember my parents like freaking out. Like, oh my God, you're traveling across the world to meet online people? And, that's totally reasonable and stuff. I can see their perspective now. They're hella confused and crap. But even my friend's mom was like, someone across the world, or actually, okay, so it's Canada to the US and US to Canada. And that's pretty much across the world if you're like 18 or 19. But yeah, his mom was like, who is this guy? He's coming here? And then both of our moms got on the phone and talked it out. And it was like funny and nice. And my mom ended up giving me some perfume to give to my friend's mom. And when I was leaving back to the US, I folded the blankets and sheets into like a nice little square. And my friend told me his mom said that was like one of the nicest things I guess has ever done. And I was like, of course, that's like the least I could do. But yeah, so sidetrack. But yeah, I got to meet some great online friends that way that I've known forever in real life at that time. But that is very, very different from OP's situation. She's only known this random dude for like a couple of months. And of course, it's possible to develop a meaningful relationship in that amount of time. But this guy is crazy sus. He's not once ever FaceTimed OP when he's at home, and he's always outside or in his car. This guy is for sure hiding something. He's like giga married with kids, or he's hiding some actual skeletons in his closet. Like someone has to check. And like, God forbid, worst case scenario, this guy is like a human trafficker. I mean, no one knows. Literally no one knows anything about this guy other than he's super sketchy. And I can't believe the mom of the niece is like not more protective of her child here. Like, I'm thinking, do you hate your child? Or are you trying to get rid of her or what? But yeah, I'm in complete agreement with OP here. The niece should not be flying out to meet this guy. Now, here are some of the top/relevant comments from the original post. Commenter 1 says, I would agree with you that it's a red flag. It might turn out to be nothing, and he is a great guy, but feels more likely that she's going to need a quick exit from there. Commenter 2 says, yeah, even if the guy is legit, the hotel part alone would make me nervous as hell. Commenter 3 says, he's either married or she's about to get trafficked. Not wrong. OP later adds an edit to her post. Thanks for the feedback and assurance that I'm not completely crazy here. I had a good conversation with my niece this evening. I told her she should verify some information first and ask some of the questions y'all shared here. She still thinks I'm being paranoid, but she's agreed to at least ask to chat with his roommates a bit and ask for some other details that she can verify on her own. Also, for the folks telling me to mind my business or similar, I know your heart is in the right place, but my niece regularly asks me for advice, and this wasn't unsolicited feedback to her. My sister and I are very close, and we are also very close with each other's kids. We live near each other and usually have dinner as a big group with our spouses and kids a few times a month. Update, 15 days later. My niece followed my advice and insisted on talking with her boyfriend's roommates and getting some more information about him that she could verify on her own. She also searched lots of "Are we dating the same guy?" groups. After a couple of weeks of back and forth, it turns out he was hiding a bunch of stuff. As many people pointed out, it was a bit odd for a 32-year-old guy who has a career to be living with roommates. It turns out that he was actually living with his parents, and his financial situation was not great. He got a divorce 2 years ago, had to move in with his parents, and has been struggling to find consistent work since. He apparently also has a son he did not tell my niece about because he's not really a part of his son's life anymore. What? What? Needless to say, my niece is breaking up with him. I think she would have been okay with him living with his parents, but the dishonesty about his situation and being a parent was too much. My niece is having a tough time with it right now, but I hope it's for the best in the long run. My sister and I also had some good discussions, and she sees my point of view a bit more. My daughter is on the West Coast for an internship, so my wife and I plan to bring my sister and my niece with us to go visit her. It won't make up for the breakup, but at least it's a fun trip away from home. Even though I was right to be suspicious here, I'm also rethinking my opinions on long-distance relationships based on some of the positive comments on my last post. ScalingStories Corner. Yo, who is telling OP to mind her own business? Her freaking niece is on the line here, like potentially about to get trafficked or something, and people are like, nah, it's not your business, it's her life, she's an adult. Okay, she's an adult with no life experience. We're just gonna let her potentially ruin her life for what? For fun? Or what? Of course we gotta help the niece out if she's like an important person to us. And by us, I mean OP. But anyway, so it seems like this guy wasn't married. He was just hiding the fact that he was living with his parents. It was still a red flag because he was only FaceTiming the niece outside or in his car and never at home. And also, dude, he has a kid. So yeah, all the red flags were very valid and true in this situation. And I'm glad the niece never ended up going to meet this guy because there's no way he had good intentions with all that deceit going on. Now, here are some of the top/relevant comments from the update post. Commenter 1 says, "Sounds like your family has a distinct lack of both survival instinct and critical thinking skills. Glad you've broken free of the crab bucket." OP says, "My sister always looks for the best in people, even when it's not there to find. It's great when she's supporting kind people, but she's also been taken advantage of by unkind people. However, I can also admit my skepticism isn't always perfect either." Commenter 2 says, "Honestly, this is exactly why asking a few uncomfortable questions early can save a lot of heartbreak later. Living with parents isn't the red flag here. It's the fact that he left out an ex-wife, a child, and major details about his life. Your niece didn't ruin a relationship. She found out she wasn't being given the full story. Also, major aunt win for looking out for her without just banning the relationship outright. That's the kind of advice people appreciate a lot more once the dust settles." OP says, "Yeah, I hope my niece is a bit more careful in the future, but I also hope this doesn't make her feel jaded. My sister and my niece are two of the most positive people I know, and I love that about them, even if it leads to some mistakes from time to time." Commenter 3 says, "This is what mentoring and parenting look like. Speak up if you are worried about a family member's safety, emotional or physical. You had good questions, followed up with her later, and treated her like an adult. I did dumb crap in my early 20s and would have benefited from having an older woman help me learn critical thinking skills about relationships." OP says, "I appreciate the compliment on good mentoring, but the only older women involved are my sister and my wife, lol." OP later adds an edit to his post. "I find it kind of funny that everyone assumes I'm an aunt, lol. I'm an uncle, but I will take the fact that I give aunt vibes as a compliment." And oh my god, I'm not gonna re-record my earlier takes, but I also thought OP was an aunt for some reason. I don't know. He was giving some good vibes. But yeah. Okay, friends, so that concludes today's video. Leave a like and comment down below to let me know what you thought of it, and I'll see you again tomorrow. Take care.